Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, and this is your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today, we're here live at the World Trade Center in Seattle. We're going to be talking about everything that is edibles today. It's day one at HempFest. I've got some amazing guests, starting with Dan Devlin of Zoots. Dan is a co-founder of Zoots, maker of a handcrafted small batch treat made with premium infused cannabis paired with unique blends tailored to your interests, desires, and intentions. Their zootologists carefully extract the essential oil of the cannabis plant in a contaminant-free environment using their proprietary cypress extraction method. The closed-loop process captures THC using organic cane alcohol and a cold fusion process, so you can be assured that each serving is consistent. And while everyone experiences cannabis individually, Zoots is about having a good time without feeling uncomfortably stoned, which is what sets Zoots apart as a purveyor of fine cannabis edibles. And Zoots was recently acquired by Washington-based Ionic Brands for a total of $11.6 million. Ionic, with a market cap of about $16.5 million, trades on the Canadian Securities Exchange as IONC and on the over-the-counter OTC markets as IONKF. Dan, thanks for being here.
You bet. Glad to be.
Remotely with us is Bob Eschino with Incredibles. Bob is co-founder and president of Medically Correct, whose trusted brand, Incredibles, is known for having the most consistent and award-winning infused products in the cannabis industry. Bob is responsible for the company's sales, marketing, and national expansion. As founding member of the Edibles Council through Cannabis Business Alliance, the Colorado Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, and the Colorado Cannabis Manufacturers Association, Bob has helped shape the next wave of cannabis rules and regulations for the cannabis industry federal level. Medically Correct prides itself on helping educate the public about responsible edible consumption and the emerging cannabis industry. Bob, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And also remotely is Patrick Ian Moore of Edible Magazine. Patrick's the editor-in-chief of Edibles Magazine and the chief operations officer of Edibles List Manufacturing and Distribution. He started out as head dispatch at Speedweed and went from there to be working as a product development and marketing specialist at W Vapes. The edibleslist.com is a source for information and reviews on medical marijuana edibles, dispensaries, doctors, and all else in the legal cannabis community. Edibles Magazine is a source for credible and relevant news with everything related to the cannabis industry. Their mission is to help medical marijuana patients locate smokeless medication alternatives. They want to help get the medicine in the hands of the patients they need it. They connect patients, vendors, and dispensaries, and patients can now save time and money locating their favorite edibles and new consumable products while being able to rate and review, adding their valued option to our online community. Staying tuned for their best of Edibles List awards, and stay tuned for the topicals, tinctures, and other awards that they have. So Patrick Ian Moore, thanks for being with us.
Oh, thank you so much.
Transitioning into the future and what that might look like, there's an interesting list of opportunities in the general sector, and I kind of want to run through some of these opportunities that might bleed into the cannabis world, and check to see how that relates to where you see the cannabis industry moving forward. So the question is, what's in store for the future of edible products as we're seeing new things come on board? I'm always taking a look at new, neat, niche stuff. So whether it's cooperative packaging solutions or modular factories, mobile pack houses, improved traceability technology, farm-to-fork virtual marketplaces, or behavioral economics for agriculture. There's a lot of cool stuff on the horizon. And so starting with Patrick, what's in store for the future of edible products? I know that in California, popular strains take about 6 months to hit Colorado, and then about another 6 months before they're popular in Washington. So maybe we could say that California leads the trends. What are you seeing, Patrick, in store for the future of edible products?
I think on the simple side of things, dietary specific healthy things like we were talking about earlier are probably some of the same trends that you see in regular food. Is always some of the same trends that you're going to see in cannabis infused food. So things that are made vegan, things that are kosher, things that are gluten-free, things that are sugar-free or super low sugar. Those are kind of the simple trends that we anticipate just getting more and more and more popular. But like you said, anybody that can offer a farm to table, or let's say farm to dispensary counter experience where the the end user or the end consumer can actually look at the journey that this went on from when it was a seed to when it was a plant to when it got harvested until it was turned into whatever is going to be used to infuse the food. And if they can do the same thing with the ingredients of the food and know that everything is organic and cruelty-free and fair trade, the same kind of ideals that are informing people's eating habits are kind of informing a lot of their cannabis consumption habits or philosophies as well. So those things for sure. And then everything that you talked about earlier with nanotechnology, emulsification, and infusion as well, just because the bioavailability is going to be higher. That's a word that most consumers are only just now hearing for the very first time, and what it means, what it might possibly mean to them. So the other thing is low dose, of course, is more popular than ever. It used to be something people really complained about. But now microdosing is something that continues to get more and more popular all the time, especially with new users or people who need something working for them all day long, not just at the end of the day or right before bed, but need to start the moment that they wake up and then throughout the day. So microdosing, healthy, dietary specific things with a higher bioavailability. Those are the immediate trends that we see getting more and more popular for 2019, 2020, and where it's going. Past that, probably just all of the newer technologies and ways of extracting and infusing that we're seeing enter the market for the very first time now, especially as people become more and more aware of it. Because, like we said, I mean, most people out there, when you say the word edible, they are still wondering, do you mean a pot brownie? Is what I get asked more than anything else. Now, maybe they might say, are those gummies Dr. Phil talks about? We hear a lot of people referencing Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz. So that's still where a lot of people are getting their information. Outside of California, Colorado, probably Washington and Oregon too. When you guys travel, you might see this. I'm from Oklahoma, born and raised in Oklahoma. So when I go to Oklahoma for a cannabis event, it kind of feels like I have traveled back in time 20 years. And that I'm talking to people who may have never heard of a lot of the things that we talk about now. When I talked about cannabis vapes, they asked if that was an e-cigarette with weed in it, which technically it is, but the fact that none of the people that I was talking about who were growers in the industry and at a cannabis event had heard of a lot of even the distillation or extraction techniques that we talk about in much more compliant states with a rich history of legalized cannabis. They're only hearing about that for the first time. So what I see is the trends in somewhere like Los Angeles or San Francisco really might not be the trend somewhere like Tulsa, Oklahoma for another 5 to 7 years. So even trending wise, I think we still have to look at it as kind of a state by state or at least area by area basis.
Well, your future sounds delicious. So thank you. Dan, what do you see in store for the future of edible products?
Well, first of all, I see a really good market growth. One of our focuses, because we are more in the microdosing side, it's been the 40 plus, the senior set. I would say overall, product-wise, I mean, I think certainly bioavailability and trying to create more of a social type experience where, you can get a little buzz and it's more effective and sooner, just like a beer or something like that. You're not getting over-consuming, you're doing it in a natural conversation way. We see that as being big. I think CBD combinations, especially with a little bit of THC, which we think is by far the best combination, are going to be really big. The self-medication, again, we can't make any claims, but there are, you can just go on the internet and find a whole lot of testimonials. And I think a lot of people are going to move in more and more into that. And I think, again, that's the elder set that we're looking at, for anything from topicals for arthritis to you know, a little bit of cannabis and CBD for migraines. You know, it expands the whole thing. Sleep, of course. You know, we're fond of saying, you know, products will evolve and develop, and we're fond of saying that, you know, anything that isn't produce or fresh protein, we can make infused. And then the consumer is going to eventually settle on what is the best element. And we're not trying to create a dessert. We're just trying to create a nice little package in which it's an enjoyable consumption, an enjoyable experience throughout the whole basis.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that the number one demographic is white women 50 and over as a number one purchaser for pre-rolls. I was also surprised by the 15% market share of topicals and tinctures. It's no surprise that suppositories aren't selling well. Nobody wants to buy that from a kid at a dispensary. But if you have a vending machine, I think you're going to start to see a lot more sales. And so maybe with the addition of vending machines, we'll see more purchasing in that baby boomer generation for topicals and tinctures. Once they get acclimated to that, they'll definitely try the edibles. And so I would agree that that's a huge market that's not being really utilized. The education is huge. When I approached an adult retirement community, the director was very, very interested in having a CBD educational course. So then I got a gal that is licensed to do massage, and she's here locally and is well known. And she was excited, started talking about cannabis. And then the director of this adult housing unit said, I would never introduce my people to cannabis. That would be irresponsible. And so the education needs to be there because we're all on the same page talking in different languages, essentially.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting. I think from suppositories, we do suppositories here. We give most of them away, right? I mean, typically when you find the patient who needs a suppository, they're in pretty bad shape.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not something that you sell a lot of, but it is a product that we make a lot of. I think it's going to be, you know, a pretty long path, but people are going to realize eventually that it is a pretty effective way to consume your cannabinoids, right? Especially if you need high milligrams. So.
High milligrams, prostate cancers, you know, colon cancer, those type of elements that seem to have helped quite a bit.
Yeah,
it's not a popular retail item.
No, we've got a patient here and had prostate cancer and some tumors on their spine, and started them with just a super high CBD tincture and high THC suppositories. Within the first 3 months, PSA levels went from 406 down to 1.9.
what?
Tumors are almost half the size in the first 3 months, to the point where the doctors don't even want to do any more body scans because their blood work is so good. Blood work now is at 0.3. So, you know, PSA levels are at 0.3, and they're like looking at the blood levels going, if we didn't know you had cancer, we wouldn't think you had cancer, right? So, so we've seen results like that, and those are always just reinforces my understanding that cannabis is one of the most therapeutic plants on the planet, right? And everybody's got a need for it, right? It's just how, right? What your delivery method is, what your ratios are, you know, whether you're doing it for health issues, whether you're doing it as a supplement, right? I mean, I take very low doses of cannabinoids on a daily basis. Other people need 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams a day. And, you know, we've got patients everywhere in between. So that's been kind of the fun part of the industry, is just watching so many people get here and find relief somehow, right? Whether it's 1 milligram of THC a day or 1,000 milligrams of THC a day, we hear success stories day after day after day. And, that's really what keeps me going. It's why I got into the industry. It helped my grandmother, and I watched it help her towards the end of her life. And, you know, every day I get that email or get that phone call or, you know, see that Facebook post of somebody finding relief from cannabinoids. It just reignites the fire.
Yeah, I think, Bob, you hit it right on the head when you said that everybody has a need, and everybody can consume this product, and it'll help them. I'm talking about not only people that have serious medical conditions, but even lightweight conditions, even temporary stress, sleep, just relaxation. In today's world, which is a very high stress environment, I mean, I've often said that I think we can replace every bit of antidepressants that are out there in a safe way and in a fun way, in a relaxing way. So everybody, our potential market is everybody, not just the people who have tried before. As this grows, it's going to be, I think everybody will be using it in some form or another.
I think what I heard this from a doctor, the average person in the US takes 14 pills a day.
Yeah.
14. So, there's a lot of people who don't take any, which means the people who are taking pills are up in the 20s, right? So everybody seems to be consuming a pill for something. And, cannabis can probably help a number of those ailments.
I think we're going to see a lot of microdosing as people kind of just take it instead of maybe one aspirin or whatever. They'll just take a microdose, 5 milligrams. I tend to take a 1-to-1 CBD to THC ratio. Dan had mentioned that that's a good ratio. I found that in 2015, and it made me remember what Blue Dream used to be before it had all this pinene in it. It was this euphoric, energetic, uplifting effect. And that 1-to-1 CBD to THC ratio is phenomenal. I tend to take more of a 20-to-1 now. That's my microdose. That's what I do when I'm on a panel or speaking in front of a group. If I have anxiety, whatever, 20-to-1 is great for that microdose. And then the 1-to-1 is my go-to. That's kind of my hybrid when people are looking for a sativa-like effect or an indica-like effect. That combination for me is a 1-to-1 CBD to THC ratio. I think that'll be all the rage. Time will tell.
No, it's funny. We have those products, right? We have a 1 milligram THC, 10 milligram tart, and a gummy, and a chocolate bar. They're still kind of low on the sales side, but that momentum is growing, right? And I think what we've seen and what you're going to see in every state is probably what we saw here in Colorado, and I'm sure what you saw in Washington, where, as soon as cannabis becomes legal, it's just a rush to consume as much as you can, right? Right? It's like prohibition's ended. And eventually the pendulum swings back to, okay, I can't keep consuming that much cannabis on a daily basis, right? And they pull back and realize, 1 to 3 to 5 milligrams a day and some CBD, those are all good levels, right? And we're seeing it here in Colorado, and as the new states emerge, I'm sure it's going to be the same thing, right? It's the highest milligram you can get me, right, is kind of how it came out of the gates, right? And we still, I still have 1,000 milligram products on the medical side here, but the 1 milligram products on the rec side are really starting to pick up some steam. They're really starting to grow.
It's funny you brought up the suppositories at the end. I feel like that feeds back slightly into the question you asked about what athletes are doing earlier. Because the one time that I tried some high-dose suppositories, which was really just to write a review on them, I also had to participate in a bowling tournament that day, like a cannabis industry bowling tournament, which I had forgotten about when I used the suppositories. Edibles Magazine won that bowling tournament. I had the highest score out of any individual player in the entire tournament. And some of those shops had ringers. They brought their security guards that had their own bowling ball, shoes, special gloves, like guys who really took it seriously. And I hadn't bowled in about 7 years at the time. So there's a chance that they're slightly performance enhancing.
Maybe we should market towards the bowling market now. I'm thinking this is going to change my whole strategy.
Wait, can I make a bowling ball shape now? Is that what I can do? I think it's going to be more uncomfortable. I don't know.
It's a different but I will tell you, normally, if I was in a bowling alley for 3 hours, I would be wanting to go outside and smoke. I did not even think about it. It didn't occur to me. I wasn't thinking I needed to smoke or that I felt low on THC. So I'm a fan of them. I think more people should try them. I know of it, but I definitely recommend them, especially if you know that you're going to be, I don't know, trapped on a plane or trapped in a bowling alley or on a really long drive. But as with everything else, know your dose. I'm sure it'd be easy for those to hit the wrong people way too hard.
So with that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. I want to thank my guests. We have Bob Eschino with Incredibles. Also remotely is Patrick Ian Moore with Edibles List and Edibles Magazine. And also here is Dan Devlin with Zoots. Congratulations on the recent acquisition, by the way.
Thanks a lot for having us on and ability to talk about what we love, edibles.
So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't. And I'm out.